Hello, is Coach Garrison, and this is Let's Talk Real Life with Nada Manning, and we're 106.9 FM. We're also broadcasting this amongst our social media platform, which is awesomeradio.org and Awesome Radio YouTube and Awesome Radio Facebook, GPAT 23 Facebook, and we hope you like, share, and subscribe. As always, we have some beautiful topics here, among all of the topics here at Awesome Radio. And we hope you enjoy, and we hope to see your feedback or questions, and we will respond to them as soon as we can. So, thanks once again. Welcome to the show. I'm the co host, Coach Vernon Garrison, certified life coach, motivational coach, if you will, here to bring you all that you need to get it done in crisis and or personal development. All right. Well, without further delay, I'd like to introduce the host of the show, incredible teacher, incredible person, and associate and friend, Miss Nada Manning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you today?
Hi, I am doing well. I hope everyone out there are doing the same. It certainly is good to be here to bring about some more good news as we do the best we can to put it out there to everyone. We are more than happy to bring forth different topics, various things. This time we are going to, we're still on relationships, but it's a whole different spin uh, as we talk about the family and the surrounding folks. The topic in particular is what? The problem with exposing kids to sexual and violent content. That's a long topic, but it has meaningful ingredients. The problem with exposing kids to sexual and violent content. Now, in today's world,
Then let
we,
me finish citing the website. Okay, you brought
okay,
up the topic, and I want to
okay,
share a bit about where we're getting our content and the inspiration for our studies today. And as we bring you more of a wholesome show, ladies and gentlemen, we want to let you know this is founded on credible issues that's being researched and data has been collected. And today's um, information and some of the thoughts and data that we'll be bringing to you is been pulled together by the Institute for Family Studies. Now you can go to ifsstudies.org and take a look at the information that we are referencing today. The Institute for Family Studies is the organization, and it's an institute that is dedicated to strengthening marriage and family life and advancing the well being of children through research. It's also an institution that it includes data when it concerns religion and Christian influence, if you will, in certain people's behavior. So I just wanted to take a moment before we got too far down the road to let everybody know that we're bringing them valid content from valid studies, and some of these informations are the topics. Some of it is time sensitive. Some of it is data that's been collected and compiled within the last 10 years, and some of it is immediate data that just goes longer or shorter periods of time. So we want to be careful, but we also want to let you know you can also research these subjects and form your own opinion as your individuality is. Some of these things are going. I'm going to shake your beliefs, if you will, even with the way you look at the Bible, and there's even what you call updated versions of the Word, updated versions of the Bible, and you don't go in there. When was that written? Who wrote this? And okay, what's the So looking at these studies, don't get bent out of shape with whether you think we believe what we say or not. Every bit of information that you read and you study, including the Word of God, you should have some kind of identification of the original creation of that word, or original publication of that word at times, and how it spans over hundreds of years, thousands of years, and how it translates to the present time. So with all that being said, I'm going to hand it back to the teacher as she begins to go into this very, very deep subject that I just can't wait to start giving out my heart.
The problem, thank you, Coach.
Yes.
The problem with exposing kids to sexual and violent content. Two highlighted points in this would be violent content isn't likely to make you or your kids murder someone, but research shows it does impact behavior. That's the first point. Now, if we want to look at today's society and the way things, violence, which is that's A, and B is exposing to violence, increase in agreement with the idea that violence is an acceptable way of solving problems. We all know throughout this world that violence is running rapid in the school system. We're talking about exposing kids to sexual and violent content. I want to say that in looking at recent shows, if you will, those different things that happening on the media, we have the children, and it makes you wonder. And as you all know, I always like to go back to back in the day. I'm talking about today, but because I'm from back in the day, I can't help but relate the information to back in the day. And we're talking about the way things are going today, as opposed to the way they went back in the day. Guns in the school system has just become seemingly more and more, it's not normal, but it's the way society is today, and how they're getting exposed to these violent thoughts is what is on the top of a lot of our minds as adults and grandparents. What in the world is happening to cause them to want to be so violent? What is causing them to even want to pull a firearm against another student or a teacher for that matter? It stems to me, as these children mature in life, it stems from their environment. And I don't want to keep zooming in on home, because many times it's not always about the home. It's about the company that they keep. And that could be outside of the home. So I don't want to say it's always the parent's fault. Much of it is, but not all of it. Some of us have become, as parents and grandparents, we've become so preoccupied with other things where we miss the signals. We miss the signs that our child is going through something, or being around the company, the wrong company, so to speak. There was this, I recently observed a family of a mother, father, and two sons. One was 13 and the other one was 17. The father had a firearm in the home. He had it under lock and key. He was a traveling parent. He went away a lot, traveled a lot, and mom was a professional as well. So when the parents were away from home, this 17-year-old and a 13-year-old, when the family is away from home, the dad had become an expert, going to the gun range and everything for himself. as a protection for him and his family, away from home and at home. So he had become, what's the word for a gun expert? Someone,
A
what is
marksman,
that called? Huh?
a marksman, sharpshooter.
Marksman? Marksman. I believe that's the term, a marksman. And so he wanted to show his son, his 17-year-old, not the 13-year-old. He showed his 17-year-old and took his 17-year-old to the gun range with him to get the 17-year-old familiar with the gun and how to use it, how to, disarm it and what have you. So the 17-year-old had become really, really good and very, very protective of his brother. So one time, both parents was away from home, and dad had gone away. So anyway, all of that to say, this 17-year-old ended up being shot by his 13-year-old. Now, the 17-year-old was very protective about the lock and key, the combination. It was under two combinations. And so he did not let the 13-year-old knew where the gun was, but he didn't have the combination to get to it because dad only wanted the 17-year-old. I'm bringing this up because, as I said previously, it's not always about the parents making a mistake or not being attentive or not being responsible, because I think that this parent did all the right things. So what happened was, the boys heard something going on. So the 18-year-old went to get the gun out. So he did not want his brother to see how to get the gun and unlock it and all of that stuff. Well, the 13-year-old was smart. He said he thought he heard his parents coming, so he went running. So the 17-year-old left the gun unloaded in the boy's hand. Well, he laid it on the table. The boy went and got the gun off the table because he was curious. He wanted to know how it worked and all that to say what? At the end of the day, that 13-year-old had in his mind to kill his brother. Now, he wanted to kill his brother, I think, because his brother was getting all of the attention. He was being favored, and the 13-year-old felt left out. So the 13-year-old felt like any other younger one, he just go on and get rid of him so it can just be me now. Well, that didn't work. It backfired.
I'm trying to follow you. Is that your assumption of what happened, or is that the investigation?
That's what the investigation actually showed. My assumption is why this 13-year-old wanted to kill his brother in the first place. My assumption is he wanted to get his brother out of the way because his brother was getting too much attention. So the best way to do it is to just shoot him. Now, he ended up with a psychological issue. He really was ended up going to a psych ward because he did have a mental. Mom and dad already lost the older boy. Now this second boy, they're going to court and all this kind of stuff. The bottom line is this violence that this boy had in his mind to kill his brother. And they were like very, very close, so everybody thought. But my point is, what provoked that 13-year-old to want to kill his brother? And that's what I'm saying, because he wanted him out of the way.
Gotcha.
He did not know the consequences as a 13-year-old, but the dad ended up getting charged at first for negligence. Well, the 13-year-old did not know that they was going to take his dad away. So the attorney said, okay, mom and dad, they have already began to put two and two together. That this little boy really knew what he was doing. It was not an accident. He claimed he heard the parents coming in so he could have access to that gun because the 17-year-old went out of the room to go see if the mom and dad was really coming because they wasn't supposed to have the gun.
Right. I got you.
So all of this to say, we're talking about violence and how some parents are not always responsible for the outcome of their children. They do the best they can. So as we move forward with this exposing kids to the violent content, now there wasn't anything sexual in this part, but it could have been, because it ended up telling them, okay, if dad goes to prison, their oldest son has died, then that just leaves mom and this little boy, 13-year-old. Well, if he killed his brother, what you think he gonna do to mom if he don't have his way?
Anyway, okay, hold it right there. So now let's bring it back to context, because we was going podcast then, so we want to mix conversation with some of the facts or the studies. First of all, and it just came to, we got to start this conversation off with what is violence. So we really can't assume what violence is, because violence has a cloak itself with normalcy, with normal everyday things at times. And what's violent now might not have been considered violence in 1980. And let me give you an example of why we got to talk about what violence is, because you can bring a gun to school on my high school campus in 1985, 86, 87, and 88. You had guns in the car. As soon as you got out of class, you could go get in your truck or your car and go hunting. Most of the guys.
Who is you? The students or the teachers?
Students. Yes,
the students. The students could go to their car and get a gun out and no problem in the 80s.
No. You could, Lord, you did not hear what I said. You had your guns in your vehicles. There was no reason to bring the gun into school, but it was on the school property, so you could go get in your car and leave the campus and go hunting. The guns were not hidden. The guns were not locked under extreme circumstances. What I'm saying, the mindset was totally different then. If you were in the student parking lot, you went out and got your gun and gave it to John and he put it in his car, that was not a crime. That was not. So the go ahead. What are you saying?
I don't know.
So here's what I'm saying to you. You have to expand your mind, because location, culture, people, and thoughts control what violence is. Even in the spiritual realm, some people, I was reading a study, no, definitely won't last night because I won't feeling that well. A couple of nights ago, what is evil? Some people don't think evil exists. It's just the absence of good that makes things happen that way. So go ahead now. Let's go back to the guns on the high school campus. You grew up in the country and went to school. You guys weren't able to bring your guns to school?
No.
There you go. That's just, and I'm over in Pamlico County, and you were where in high school?
I was in Michigan.
Yeah, so maybe Michigan. See, now you're up north, and I'm down here in South. We have hunting culture down here. There was guns in everybody's cars. And
well, obviously that's why I cannot relate, because I'm saying,
yes.
I don't know what 80s you were in, but that during the 80s in my time, no, we were not doing guns, better not touch a gun, didn't have anything to do with a gun.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. You can't, I don't want you to put yourself outside of a box. I just want you to expand your mind, because people here from the South, everybody's like, yep, and don't make yourself look like you knew everything just because you was in Michigan about the South, because you didn't. That's
right.
Just, yeah.
And I guess you may have said it and I missed it, but it depends on location where you are.
Yeah. So we're dealing with a subject of what is violence, and I'm saying violence has social meanings when it comes to violence. Now, if I'm walking up, still in North Carolina, hear me out real closely. I'm going to take it a little bit deeper. Violence to me is images and how you perceive the image. Do you know a lot of the cartoons that we watched in the 80s are now considered, well, I'm going to say less than 10 years ago, I heard this, by the FCC as being violent. When Bugs Bunny used to be going around and Elmer Fudd shooting that gun
That
at each other.
you're
And
saying
while
that was violence then or violence now?
it's violent content, yes, those images that were shown to kids were pretty much shown to be too violent for little kids. Now, how you and I hope I'm not talking too loud because I get excited, but how you and I perceived them when we were growing up, just because we saw Elmer Fudd say, I'm going to kill the rabbit. And we did not take that as he was shooting that rabbit, as if he was having street justice in the way that some of these studies, we are using violence to resolve our issues in the street, and in some our families we
Yeah.
use what we call violence. So what I wanted to do is we want to talk about what violence is, because everything that you consider violent would maybe not been violent as you were growing up, and it is violent now. Watching a show with somebody's fighting could have very well been perceived as entertainment, but now it's perceived as violent content that should be rated as you watch it on TV, because the imagery, the way that it affects generations now, it's might have went in our subliminal minds and we did not let it manifest. Well, if you do it now with a child, it might manifest. Okay, let's get into the studies here. In one of these studies, and we'll get to it during the show, they talked about how behavior affect the outcomes of one of these aspects or studies, how the outcome of behavior may not, if I see somebody shoot somebody, I may not have gone in, I may not go out tomorrow and shoot somebody. But the outcome of some of the studies and the surveys that they've done yielded that the empathy towards helping people diminished the more we watch violence on TV. Now, they interview thousands. It depends on who's doing the study, why, and what environment they're doing the study on. That's for my PhD people out there. Yes, there are conditions for studying. But overall, in this particular study, they talked about how our empathy for each other went down, and thus across the nation during emergencies and crises, they found this one thing. People took longer to help other people. So if I see you fall in the mall, or if I see you fighting in the mall, or if I see you injured in some way, it takes longer for a stranger or a bystander or a good Samaritan to show up versus the time frame prior to the studies.
And why is that?
Because violence and the image of violence, it is affecting our social attitude towards each other. That's just one thing that they confirmed. And yes, they asked a million questions to get to that point, but I'm not wanting to debate how they came up with that conclusion. But now, if two people are fighting, I can guarantee you, if I walk out in the hallway and two people are fighting, you might see someone say, y'all stop. But you're going to see most of the people with their cell phones out videotaping the fight. So I believe that research automatically, versus what used to happen back in the day, you fighting in the hallway, you can just know the teachers is coming. You can just know they about to break that junk up. It doesn't happen now.
And I said something wrong with that picture.
Well, of course it is. And so that's a way that violent images and us of accepting our form of conflict resolution, and we've gotten a little, what you call, it's normal. And when, it doesn't mean the end of the world. It doesn't mean call the police right away if you see somebody fighting.
Okay, let me put a little spin on that. What if is not fighting. Suppose, because we are talking about sexual here.
Well, we're
Suppose,
talking about violence right now. I was just going back to violence. I said we got to
wait a
see what
minute.
the definition of violence. Okay,
Wait.
go ahead on.
We are talking about the same environment. They're in the hallway and they're fighting. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's step back a little bit and just hypothetically think,
yeah.
why are they fighting? Could it be over the opposite sex? Could it be two boys fighting over a girl or two girls fighting over a guy?
Of
It
course.
becomes sexual in the sense of, it can become
Yeah,
sexual in the sense as for a reason why. Now that did happen back in the day, and it does happen today. When you are approaching someone else's significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend in the school system or wherever, even on the streets, even. Yeah,
yeah.
it could be something sexual because maybe that other person approached the wrong person and became sexual because maybe they were being touched or something sexual to cause the fight, to cause the disagreement, to cause everybody's mind to flare up. What's
Of
leading
course.
to the violence?
Yes.
So I'm trying to tie the sexual with the violence.
But wait,
And
but why? I don't. Why? I want to ask you, what do you think violence is? That's the question I'm asking you. What is violence to you? So we can go on, and then we'll get to the sexual part. But what is the violent? What does violence mean? What are we talking about? And what is violence? Because
I can put it in one word. It's a disagreement.
violence is a disagreement.
A disagreement between one or more persons. Somebody's not happy with something, and the way they're going to handle it in their mind, as they might be premeditating something, which will end up being violent. So already in their mind, they can have a violent content of information going in their brain on how they're going to handle a situation. So it can become mentally violent and then become physically violent, which means it's going to actually happen.
Okay, so that's
That's
what
how
you consider.
that's how I'm connecting the dot right now.
Right, right.
It can happen, and it does happen.
Oh, I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just trying to ask you, what is your perception? What is violence to you?
That's what I
Yes.
think it is. It's a
Okay.
disagreement between parties.
So now let me ask you this then. Is carrying a gun violent?
It depends on why you're carrying it.
Now that's not a loaded question.
It depends on why you are.
No, just carrying a gun. I'm not saying you're carrying it to go shoot somebody. I was just saying, is carrying a gun, because I'm asking you. You think I'm asking a trick question? No, I'm not doing a game show thing. I'm just trying
No,
to get your thoughts. Okay, is carrying a gun a certified weapon on your side for protection? Is that violence? Just the act of having the gun.
if that's why you have it for protection only and not causing a problem, then no, it would not be violent.
Okay, because that's what I was looking at. See, so society has
And that's why
become.
I say that's why I say it depends on why
Yeah,
it's being
I
carried.
heard you, but I just didn't hear an answer from you. And so now I'm getting a yes or a no. It could be a yes and a no. We obviously know people got their reasons. So I just want to hear your thoughts. So
Did you hear?
now, yes, I heard them. So now the mere fact that in the old Western movies where they carried guns, and I say Western movies because all of society did not and was not like the cowboy pictures. Okay. I think a lot of that stuff was entertainment. So I'm not going to buy into it. But carrying a gun back then, when you didn't, where they didn't have permits and all of that kind of stuff, is that the same as carrying a gun today?
It depends because you're talking about uh different time zones.
So
As
concealed weapons. Okay, I'm carrying a concealed weapon, and I can get a permit to carry a concealed weapon, in which I don't have one. I don't have. Well, we got to watch the time. Okay, I don't have a permit to carry a concealed weapon, but I have a permit to carry a weapon. And in the state of North Carolina, in case you watch from another state, we don't have to have a permit at all. We can open carry. You can walk out of your house as long as your gun is on your side, strapped. You can carry that gun. So now I'm going to take it to another level. I don't have to be going to get into a fight. I don't have to, and nobody can say, oh, you came into this establishment to rob this place, and just because you have a gun, I'm calling the police. You can't call the police on me unless you got a sign out there that says no weapons on this property. I'm leading to this point now. I'm carrying a weapon. My children know that I carried a weapon. Is that transferring a violent mentality to them, or is that transferring the mentality that if violence comes to me, I'm going to use my gun to solve the problem? Is that a negative picture in front of children right now as we speak?
It only becomes negative if the parents or whoever the responsible individual is with the firearm is not taking time to explain to that child more than one time, or those children, the reason for doing it. In other words, the parents need to communicate. Or if the children are young, the children don't need to know it's in the house at all.
Now, let me parallel this with the business at hand. I'm carrying a weapon with permission by the government. Okay, now I gotta throw this in there for my other thinking people out there. You do not have to carry, and you can go check this. Please go check this. This is not the opinions of WBIS LP 106.9. It's not the opinions of the radio station or any affiliates. This is Coach Garrison, okay? Check me if you like. You can carry a weapon on your property with no permit at all. You hear me? As soon as you walk off of your property, you have to obey the government and society's rules and laws. Is carrying that gun with a permit, whatever your state has, is that, and if somebody threatens me, and I use my judicial system, my gun to protect myself, and I shoot them, is that showing, what's the difference between that and a gang member using a gun to protect himself from another gang situation? Or just the gang member having the gun, whether he's got a permit to carry it or not? You see where I'm paralleling how violence is a thin line between the legitimate people and the illegitimate people, but we demonize carrying weapons when they're not permitted and they're on the street in the wrong hands, as we say. But in the meantime, it's acceptable for all of us to carry a weapon under certain circumstances. So the violence in that is when we use that weapon and whether it's socially acceptable. A 16-year-old has a right to protect himself just as much as I have a right to protect my family. He can protect his family with the gun. His gun may not be registered in his name because he can't buy one. So he can't, there you go, there's the answer to the question. He can't carry, and I think you got to be 21 to carry. So kids with guns, it is against the law. They cannot and they do not have the mental capacity to shoot people but children can go hunting and shoot animals under adult supervision.
We're talking, Lord, we're talking real life, folks. We are.
Woo! That's a lot going
We
on.
are talking real life issues. I am your host, Nada Manning. We're on Let's Talk Real Life show with Coach Garrison as he explained the differences in carrying a weapon between reasons of why you should and why you shouldn't, and being very, very detailed about the information that he's sharing with us as we talk about this violent content, whether it be a youngster or an adult. In various states, things differ. So
So
we're
your
continuing.
go ahead. Go ahead.
We're continuing on with Let's Talk Real Life. I am your host, Nada Manning. Coach, back to you.
So your scenario you gave, where dad took them to the range and they did all the right stuff. The
Prepared.
dad was the irresponsible party in that situation. To have the key to the gun safe, to me, was the answer. If the child, the 17-year-old, wasn't responsible enough, it depends. I know that they can do rifles and things of that nature. I don't think 17-year-olds can do handguns. I don't know if they can shoot them in recreational positions. I'd have to study that out. But outside of all of that information, the 13-year-old shot the 17-year-old because, one, he has been exposed to an opportunity to use a gun to resolve the issue. And he had mental issues, so that made it even more complicated. But the big picture is the father bringing the weapons into the home where he had a child with mental issues. If he didn't know about it, they do
He did
now.
not.
Yeah, if he didn't know about it, they do now. But the access made the father and the mother or the parents what you call manslaughter. That's what they're charging parents with nowadays in some states. It's when you kill somebody and you actually really didn't mean to do it, but what your actions led to them dying. You know, it might have been an accident, but you're still culpable for having those, opportunity for that type of accident to happen. And
My,
yep.
my question, though, is under that same situation, there are extenuating circumstances, which leads up to our next topic of the violence that can occur and the reasons why. Now, this dad stood his ground and he gave a good reason, and yes, ended up being charged with manslaughter, yes, because it was negligent. The judge found him to be guilty for negligence of not, I guess, securing the weapon from the 17-year-old.
Right.
So, but anyway, all that to say, it does exist today. And I believe, and I think I heard you say a few minutes ago that maybe in the state of North Carolina, I don't know, that weapons should not be allowed in the home or can be.
Oh, well, definitely weapons. There's no law against having a weapon in your home. Now, felony, people that are convicted of felonies and people with mental illnesses are sanctioned. And, a lot of things, if they went to get a gun permit, they'd be denied access to one. Okay. So that is just across the board, a lot of extenuating limitations that come up in a background check when you buy one. Try to buy one.
So the moral of this whole story, folks, is when you are trying to support or protect your family or your loved ones, whether they be your children, your spouse, or your parents, grandparents, and what have you, that you really need to do your research before you get that weapon in the home. Find out what the particulars are in your particular state, because as I'm hearing this I am not a marksman. So all of the things that I'm hearing, I'm sure some of you out there are hearing all of this too. And I'm sure all of you out there probably know more than Miss Manning knows. But anyway, it's a learning experience. We are being exposed to some information that's pertinent to the topic that we're talking about on this violent content, exposing our kids. And kids can be of any kind of age, So I believe Coach Garrison made all of his points.
Nope, I got one more to get back to where we were going in the flow of things. Now, I am a criminal justice major in it. Okay, I'm a criminal justice major, so I've studied, pursued the 2-year associate. So I did all of that but one course. So when you start hitting in this area, I know something about something when it comes to criminal law. Now, let me get back to the social aspect that we were talking about. Here's the bridge that I want to cross. You were talking to conservative gun rights people, and you talk about limiting the access to weapons. They're going to look right at you. A lot of them will say, guns don't kill people. People kill people. Think of what I just said right there. Guns don't pull the trigger by themselves. People kill people. Now, I like that. And I want to see how you feel about that statement. Because there again, it's not the object of having access to the poison, but are you going to drink it? And what is our lifestyle like when it comes to gun violence, which is the number one killer of threat to young people, young Black males under a certain age of 8, I think it's under 21 or under 18, which is their life-threatening, not disease, not sugar diabetes, not high blood pressure, like or heart disease, like it could be for me and you. Well, you young, so you ain't got no threats like that. But under 18 is gun violence. That's their what you call it, epidemic. Solution. They have that larger threat of life. So now, what do you say to that? To conclude your story or to work on your story with how those children got killed. The mentality of guns don't kill people, people kill people. So yeah. It ain't my guns. Don't take my gun. It's the way we living. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, people kill people in different ways. Having the other person exposed to the weapon in the first place. It took a person to put it there. It took a person to use it. It took a person to touch it. So people kill people. I agree with you, 102.10%.
So it's our lifestyle that is that's conducive to everything that we're doing.
Yeah,
and that's what this Institute for Family Studies exposes the way we use violent behavior. Another one I want to throw out is this, while we continue to talk about this, is the death penalty. Do we kill people, and does killing people help us not kill people? Do
a person with that is put. This is my thought. A person that is actually doing the crime of killing someone or killing people, I'm thinking that in their mind, they're justified for what they're doing.
All right, but is the death penalty, the judicial system, killing people? And that was a good answer, by the way. Does the judicial system killing people stop other people criminally, deter other people from killing folks just because of the death penalty? I'm not going to shoot you because I might get the death penalty.
You're asking me, is that working to help prevent it from happening because
Yes.
of fear? I think sometimes, yeah. I mean, if people, I mean, if people thought they could get away with doing that and won't be charged with it, yeah, they'd go right on out there and just pop all of them in. I don't like you anymore, so it's time for you to go. They wouldn't even think about it. They're not going to happen to them. So, yeah,
The
yeah. I
traditional
think
answer, go ahead.
the system, the way the law is written, I believe that the system has everything to do with why some people don't do certain things.
There's been a lot of moratoriums that's been lifted on the death penalty across the United States in the last 3 to 4 years. Some states still have moratoriums, or the fact that they will not give you the death penalty, because it has not been proven that the death penalty is a deterrent for committing murder. The murder rate did drop this year, by the way, or last year. But it is not proven science that just because you think you're going to get the death penalty, that it actually works. Yeah, that's a little scary, but and there are still some countries who use public hanging, who use if you steal something, they'll cut your hand off. That, and while we're talking about violence, and why I wanted to open the public's minds, does violence begat other violence? And is it something that we could use to resolve our issues? Sure, if you come in and you're going to shoot my family, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to protect my family. But now
Let's
that
go back.
everybody's, huh?
Let's go back to the story that I was telling about the parents and the two sons.
Yeah.
Um, with that in mind, just use that as a scenario. With that in mind, and different ones looking on that may have experienced something similar in their homes or what have you,
Uh-huh.
will that deter that father in that other home from having a gun in the home? What they saw happening with this family, that particular incident has an impact on the next family, is my point. I would say yes, but not everybody.
Well, here's where that is.
Because some people don't think anything was wrong with what dad did.
Okay. So now what I'm saying to your to respond to what you just said, let me make sure I know what you just said. You're saying that the incident was the lesson that was taught because they lost their child. That's the lesson in the
Not
whole thing.
not one child, but both of them. One physically and the other one mentally.
Right. So they lost
Now they don't
that
have neither
kid.
one of them. They don't
Right.
have neither one of the boys.
Okay. That was not the teaching point then. The teaching point was the gun safety that he learned while he was going through the course, when he was being taught how to lock that box away. I mean, excuse me, lock that gun up and have limited access to it. That was the teaching point. The teaching point can't be, that's not a good graduation. But I
Well,
understand that it might deter it from someone else. But the end of should not, in the end, does justify that end did not justify. I'm not even using the right metaphor. But no, the teaching point shouldn't be that you lose a son just so other people can learn from
no,
their
that's not
experience.
my point. No,
But you
no.
saying that it did, yeah, it taught him a lesson.
I'm saying that there was more than one lesson in the moral of this story.
Yeah,
Number
I follow
one,
you.
yeah, it was more than one lesson. I wasn't just saying, no, this is what's going to happen. If you do this, you're going to end up losing both your children. No, that's not what I was saying. There are two or three different things that can be learned from that story. Number
Yes.
one is how dad handled it. And also, by the way, let's not forget mom. We know how moms are close to their children. So there was a lesson there. And there was a lesson for all four of the members of the family.
I,
The
I,
13-year-old too.
I'm not disputing that at all. I'm just saying that's not where they should have learned from. So they learned from the class that they went through and the training that he got to handle the weapons. But I'm gonna say this with 49 minutes into this. This is discussion that I like to have to get down into the foundation. And I still haven't forgot about the one about evil, the question. So now I love this aspect. We're studying about the problem of exposing kids to sexual and violent content and violence you were talking about earlier. I just wanted to define it. And you see, it takes a while to get down to it. It's going to come to a social element, I suppose.
You done?
So, yep.
What? Really?
Yeah, I'm done. I told you I was ready for this subject, and now you
You
can
don't
see
have
I'm
anything.
going. Huh?
You don't have anything else to add?
I could, but
Because
we could talk for hours about what violence is and what
we
do. We just getting started.
We do have a couple of more minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yourself.
in saying all of that,
Uh-huh.
and saying all of that, we didn't touch much on the sexual part as I wanted to get into it because somebody wanted to stick to the violence.
And
that's fine.
I just wanted to ask you a question, and you went somewhere, and I went right down behind you. we might have to have a special 2-hour show when we get to the sexual part. Okay, I can go right down behind you on that too.
It's great information and food for thought as we have shared with everyone about the exposure of kids, and they are so vulnerable, as we all can agree. We can agree on that, right, sir?
Oh, definitely.
Vulnerable kids, vulnerable children.
That's right.
And some adults are vulnerable as well.
And so I think adults are vulnerable to children. I see some bad demonic children. I don't know where they got that stuff from. Wait till we talk about that. Kids that they create evil. They create stuff, and ain't nobody taught them nothing. You can't teach them what I seen some of these children know. I'm a hush. I can't wait to talk about that.
Anyway, okay. We will talk about that at some point. But right now, folks, we are at the end of this show. And I do hope that you found it interesting and informative, food for thought as well. So as we begin to close for now, until next time, I want to pray, Lord, to help us, Lord, in every aspect. Us children, us grown-ups, us grandparents, we all need your help, Lord. As we talk about the family studies and how things can just disrupt and turn some families upside down. So, Lord, help us in every way that you can as we continue to do what Coach and I can do with this show to put word out there for other listeners to pay attention to have adhere of information. So we just want to give you the praise for that. We thank you for being who you are in our lives. And as of right now, we want to close and say praise God for this session. And tune in next time, folks, because we have more information to come.
All right. Okay. Thank you. This has been a production on WBIS LP 106.9.